At age of 84, I've learned a lot about life, about love, loss, and the choices that shape our golden years. But there's one decision I deeply regret: moving into a nursing home. Hi, I'm Henry, and for the past 3 years, I've called a nursing home my home. What I thought would be a safe, comfortable haven turned out to be anything but. Today, I'm sharing my story because I don't want you or your loved ones to make the same mistake I did. Many of you might be considering this option for yourself, a parent, or a grandparent. It's a decision often made with the best intentions: security, care, and peace of mind. But what if I told you there are shocking truths about nursing homes that no one talks about? Truths that could change everything you think you know? In this video, I'll reveal 6 eye-opening realities I wish I'd known before I signed those papers. From the loneliness that creeps in like a shadow to the hidden costs that drain your savings, these are the hard lessons I've learned the hard way. My goal is simple: to help you make an informed decision, one you won't regret. So, please, stay with me until the end. Whether you're planning for the future or supporting someone who is, what I share today could change everything. And if my story resonates with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice matters, and together we can shed light on what it really means to grow older in today's world. Regret number 1: losing my independence. The moment I realized I had lost my independence, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't one big event. It was 1,000 small ones. Like the first morning I woke up in that unfamiliar room, staring at sterile white walls instead of the soft yellow ones I'd painted myself. That's when it dawned on me. I wasn't just in a new place. I was in a new life, one where I no longer called the shots. Before the nursing home, my days were mine to design. I woke up when I wanted, brewed my own coffee, and spent hours in my garden tending to my roses. I cooked meals I loved, even if it was just a simple soup, and ate them at my own pace. I'd curl up in my favorite chair with a book, losing myself in stories until the sun set. These small, everyday freedoms were the threads that wove the fabric of my life. But after moving in, everything changed. Suddenly, my days were dictated by schedules I didn't create. Meal times were fixed. Breakfast at 7:30 sharp, lunch at noon, dinner at 5. If I wasn't hungry then, too bad. Want to go for a walk? I had to ask for permission, as if I were a child again. Even my bedtime was monitored. The staff meant well, but I felt like a cog in a machine, not a person with my own desires and routines. The hardest part was realizing that independence, once lost, is nearly impossible to reclaim. I tried to adapt, to convince myself it was for the best, but with every rule I followed, I felt a little piece of myself slip away. I wasn't just losing control over my day, I was losing my identity. The emotional toll was crushing. I felt helpless, frustrated, and, at times, invisible. I remember sitting by the window one afternoon, watching the world go by, and thinking, I feel like a prisoner in my own life. It wasn't just about the rules. It was about the loss of dignity, the erasure of who I was. So I want to ask you, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? The ability to decide when to eat, sleep, or simply sit in silence? Because once they're gone, you might never get them back. And this is just the beginning. Next, I'll share how moving into a nursing home left me feeling forgotten by the people I loved most. Stay with me. This is a story you don't want to miss. Regret number 2: feeling forgotten by family. When I first moved into the nursing home, my family assured me they'd visit often. We'll come every Sunday, my daughter promised. And don't forget, you're just a phone call away, my son added. I believed them. Why wouldn't I? We'd always been close, but as the weeks turned into months, those promises began to fade. And so did I, into the background of their busy lives. Before the nursing home, my family was my world. My grandchildren would burst through my door after school, their backpacks swinging, eager to tell me about their day. My daughter and I would sip tea at the kitchen table, laughing over old stories, while my son called every evening without fail, just to check in. Holidays were chaotic and joyful, filled with laughter, homemade pies, and the warmth of togetherness. I felt needed, loved, and deeply connected. But after I moved, everything changed. At first, the visits were regular, just as they'd promised. But then life got in the way. My daughter's work schedule got busier, my son's kids had soccer games, and holidays were celebrated without me. Phone calls became shorter, less frequent. I'd wait by the window, watching the parking lot, hoping to see a familiar car pull in. But more often than not, the doors stayed shut. The hardest lesson I learned was this: out of sight often means out of mind. I wasn't part of their daily lives anymore, and slowly I became a footnote in their routines. The loneliness was suffocating. I spent hours staring at the door, clutching my phone, hoping someone would remember me. The silence was deafening, and the emptiness felt like a weight on my chest. The emotional toll was unbearable. I felt abandoned, like I'd been tucked away and forgotten. The sadness was constant, a dull ache that never quite went away. I longed for the sound of their voices, the warmth of their hugs, the simple joy of being remembered. So I ask you, are you prepared for the loneliness that comes with being out of sight? Because when you're no longer part of the daily rhythm of your family's life, it's easy to feel like you don't matter anymore. And this is just the beginning. Next, I'll share how moving into a nursing home stripped me of my sense of purpose. Stay with me. This is a story that will make you think twice about what truly matters in life. Regret number 3, losing my sense of purpose. There's a moment that haunts me still. The day I realized I no longer had a reason to get out of bed. It wasn't just the loss of my home or my independence, it was the loss of my purpose. Before moving into the nursing home, my days were filled with small but meaningful tasks that gave my life direction. But here, those tasks vanished, and with them my sense of who I was. Before the nursing home, my life was rich with purpose. I woke up early to tend to my garden where I grew tomatoes, herbs, and flowers that filled my kitchen with color and life. I volunteered at the local library, helping children discover the magic of books. Even simple things like cooking a meal for my grandchildren or knitting scarves for the winter made me feel useful and alive. These activities weren't just hobbies. They were the heartbeat of my existence, the things that made me feel like I mattered. But after I moved, all of that disappeared. My garden was replaced by a single potted plant on a windowsill. My kitchen was now a cafeteria where meals appeared on a tray, no effort required. The library didn't need me anymore, and my knitting needles gathered dust in a drawer. Days blurred together, empty and monotonous. I went from having a life full of meaning to a life where I felt like a shadow of my former self. The hardest lesson I learned was this: purpose isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Without it, my mental and emotional health began to decline. I felt useless, like I was just taking up space. The boredom was crushing, and the despair crept in like a fog, clouding everything. I missed the joy of creating, of contributing, of feeling like I had a place in the world. So I ask you, what gives your life meaning, and how will you preserve it? Because when you lose your purpose, you lose a part of yourself that's hard to get back, and this is just the beginning. Next, I'll share how moving into a nursing home led to a faster decline in my health than I ever expected. Stay with me. This is a truth that could change everything you think about aging and care. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment where are you watching to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now let's move forward. Regret number 4. Declining health faster than expected. When I first moved into the nursing home, I thought it would be a relief. No more worrying about housework, cooking, or keeping up with chores. I imagined I'd finally have time to relax and rest. But what I didn't realize was that this rest would come at a steep cost: my health. Within months, I felt like I aged 10 years, and it wasn't just in my head. My body was breaking down faster than I ever thought possible. Before the nursing home, I was active and independent. I started every morning with a walk around the neighborhood, breathing in the fresh air and feeling the sun on my face. I cooked my own meals, which meant chopping, stirring, and moving around the kitchen. I even did light stretches every evening to keep my joints flexible. These small daily movements kept me strong and healthy, and I took pride in my ability to care for myself. But after I moved, everything changed. The walks stopped because I needed permission to go outside, and the staff was often too busy to accompany me. Meals were delivered on trays, so I no longer had to lift a finger. Even getting dressed became a task I relied on others to do. At first, it felt nice to be taken care of, but soon, I noticed my muscles weakening, my balance faltering, and my energy fading. I went from being active and capable to feeling frail and dependent in what felt like the blink of an eye. The hardest lesson I learned was this: movement isn't just about staying fit, it's about staying alive. The convenience of the nursing home, where everything was done for me, stripped away the very activities that kept me healthy. I felt frustrated, helpless, and full of regret. I couldn't believe how quickly my body had deteriorated. So, I ask you, will you stay motivated to keep your body strong in a nursing home? Because once you stop moving, it's hard to start again, and this is just the beginning. Next, I'll share how moving into a nursing home cost me something even more precious than my health: my privacy and dignity. Stay with me. This is a truth that will make you rethink what it means to grow older with respect. Regret number 5: the loss of privacy and dignity. The first time a nurse walked in on me while I was getting dressed, I felt a wave of humiliation wash over me. It wasn't intentional. She was just doing her job, but in that moment, I realized something had shifted. I wasn't a person anymore. I was a patient. My privacy, my dignity, the little things that made me feel human were slipping away, and there was nothing I could do about it. Before the nursing home, my home was my sanctuary. I had control over my space, my routines, and my body. I could close the door and be alone with my thoughts, take a long bath without interruption, or simply sit in silence if I wanted to. My home was a place where I felt safe, respected, and in charge of my own life. But after I moved, that sense of control vanished. My room wasn't really mine. Staff members walked in and out without knocking, often while I was in the middle of something personal. Bathing became a scheduled event, supervised by someone else, and even using the bathroom felt like a public affair. Shared spaces meant I was always surrounded by people, with no real opportunity to be alone. I felt exposed, like I was under a microscope, and it was exhausting. The hardest lesson I learned was this: dignity is fragile, and once it's lost, it's nearly impossible to reclaim. I felt like just another name on a list, a task to be checked off rather than a person with feelings and boundaries. The vulnerability was overwhelming, and the frustration of having no control over my own body left me feeling powerless. So, I ask you, are you prepared to give up the privacy and dignity you've always had? Because once it's gone, you might never get it back. And this is just the beginning. Next, I'll share the most shocking truth of all, realizing it's harder to leave a nursing home than you think. Stay with me. This is a revelation that will make you question everything you thought you knew about this decision. Regret number 6: realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. If it doesn't work out, I'll just leave, I thought. But what I didn't realize was that leaving would become nearly impossible. What started as a choice quickly turned into a trap, and I found myself stuck in a place I never wanted to call home. Before the nursing home, I had the freedom to make my own decisions. If I didn't like something, I could change it. My home was my sanctuary, a place filled with memories and comfort. I could come and go as I pleased, and the thought of being confined to one place never crossed my mind. I was in control of my life, and that control gave me a sense of security. But after I moved, everything changed. My physical health declined faster than I expected, making it harder to care for myself independently. The financial costs of the nursing home drained my savings, leaving me with few options to afford alternative care, and my family, though well-meaning, worried about my safety and insisted I stay. What started as a temporary solution became a permanent reality. The nursing home became my entire world, and the life I once knew felt like a distant memory. The hardest lesson I learned was this: moving into a nursing home is often a one-way decision. I felt trapped, powerless, and full of regret. The walls around me felt like they were closing in, and I couldn't see a way out. I spent countless nights lying awake, thinking, I wish I had known how hard it would be to leave. So I ask you, are you prepared for the possibility that leaving might not be an option? Because once you're in, it's not as simple as walking out the door. And with that, we've reached the end of my story. But before I go, I want to leave you with some final thoughts and a call to action. Stay with me. This is the most important part of all. Looking back on my journey, I've shared 6 shocking truths about moving into a nursing home, losing my independence, feeling forgotten by family, losing my sense of purpose, declining health faster than expected, the loss of privacy and dignity, and realizing it's harder to leave than I ever imagined. These regrets taught me that growing older doesn't mean giving up the things that make life meaningful: your freedom, your connections, and your sense of self. I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing a nursing home was my only option. If you're facing this decision for yourself or a loved one, I urge you to explore all alternatives. Consider in-home care, community programs, or even moving in with family. Your independence and choices are worth fighting for. Don't give them up too soon. If my story resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments. Let's start a conversation about how we can age with dignity and purpose. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Remember, life is about more than just existing. It's about living. So ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to live, and how will I protect it? Your choices today will shape your tomorrow. Choose wisely.